A fiery clash erupts as Pam Bondi faces Senator Cory Booker's relentless grilling in a Senate hearing. But shocking evidence flips the script, threatening to unravel Booker's reputation in a tense battle of wits. The Senate Judiciary Committee. Chamber buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with the weight of a nation watching. Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, sat poised at the witness table, her steely gaze fixed ahead. Across from her, Senator Cory Booker leaned forward, his expression a mix of determination and barely concealed disdain. The hearing meant to scrutinize Bondi's record on election integrity had already been billed as a showdown. Booker, known for his sharp rhetoric and commanding presence, was expected to dominate, but no one could have predicted the storm about to unfold. Booker launched into his questioning with the precision of a seasoned prosecutor. "Ms. Bondi," he began, his voice booming through the chamber, "your tenure as Attorney General raises serious concerns about your commitment to fair elections. Can you explain your refusal to investigate voter suppression claims in 2020? The question was a grenade, lobbed with the intent to rattle. Cameras swiveled, capturing every micro-expression. On Bondi's face, the room held its breath. Bondi didn't flinch. Her lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. "Senator, I'm happy to address that," she said, her tone calm but edged with steel. "But first, let's clarify the context. My office reviewed every credible claim, and we found no evidence of systemic suppression. What we did uncover, however, was something far more troubling." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. Booker's brow furrowed, a flicker of unease crossing his face. She reached for a folder on the table, its contents hidden from view. "I have here," Bondi continued, "documents that raise questions about certain senators' involvement in election oversight, or lack thereof." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Booker's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening. "Careful, Ms. Bondi," he warned, his voice low. "You're treading on dangerous ground." But Bondi pressed on, undeterred. "Senator, these records show communications between your office and a group known for spreading disinformation about voter fraud. Would you care to explain why your staff was in contact with them during the 2020 election cycle?" The accusation landed like a thunderclap. Reporters scribbled furiously, and the gallery buzzed with shock. Booker's face froze, his usual eloquence faltering for a split second. He recovered quickly, leaning into the microphone. "This is a distraction," he snapped. "You're dodging my question with baseless insinuations. I won't let you derail this hearing." His voice rose, the theatrics designed to reclaim control. But Bondi's composure held firm. She opened the folder, revealing a stack of emails, time-stamped and highlighted. "These aren't insinuations, Senator. They're facts, and I'm just getting started." The room was a powder keg, every word a spark. Bondi's evidence wasn't just a defense. It was an offensive, a calculated move to shift the narrative. Booker, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. "You're weaponizing misinformation," he countered. But the accusation sounded hollow against the weight of Bondi's documents. The power dynamic was shifting, and everyone could feel it. As the clock ticked on, Bondi laid out her case with surgical precision. Each piece of evidence, a memo, a call log, a witness statement, chipped away at Booker's armor. The senator's frustration grew, his questions becoming more aggressive, his tone more personal. "You've made a career out of dodging accountability," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. Bondi didn't take the bait. "Accountability, Senator," she replied coolly. "Let's talk about yours." The exchange was no longer just a hearing. It was a duel, broadcast live to millions. Social media exploded, hashtags trending as viewers picked sides. Bondi's supporters hailed her as a truth-teller. Booker's allies decried her as a political opportunist. But in the chamber, the battle was far from over. Bondi's folder still held secrets, and Booker's next move was anyone's guess. As the session neared its first break, Booker leaned back, his eyes locked on Bondi. "You think you've won this round?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not done with you." Bondi met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm counting on it, Senator." The gavel fell, but the tension lingered, a promise of more fireworks to come. The gavel's echo faded, but the Senate chamber remained a cauldron of tension. Pam Bondi gathered her papers, her movements deliberate, while Senator Cory Booker conferred with aides, his jaw tight. The break was brief, but the stakes had skyrocketed. Bondi's bombshell evidence, emails linking Booker's office to a disinformation group, had shifted the hearing's trajectory. Now, as the session resumed, every eye was on Booker. Would he counterattack or crumble? Booker rose, his presence commanding despite the earlier blow. "Ms. Bondi," he began, his voice steady but laced with venom, "your attempt to smear me with cherry-picked documents won't distract from your record. Let's talk about your cozy ties to corporate donors who bankrolled voter ID laws." The accusation was a calculated pivot, aimed at painting Bondi as a pawn of big money. The gallery murmured and cameras zoomed in, hungry for her response. Bondi's expression didn't waver. She leaned forward, her voice calm but piercing. "Senator, if we're discussing ties, perhaps we should examine yours. My team uncovered financial records showing your campaign received substantial funds from the same group tied to those emails." The room gasped. Bondi slid a new document across the table, its contents obscured, but its implications clear. "Care to explain why your campaign accepted their money?" Booker's eyes flashed with fury. "This is outrageous," he snapped, slamming his hand on the desk. "You're fabricating a conspiracy to deflect from your failures." His outburst drew a sharp rebuke from the committee chair, but the damage was done. Booker's composure was cracking. Bondi seized the moment. "Fabrication, Senator? These are bank statements, verified and time-stamped. I'm happy to make them public." Her words were a dagger, and the chamber felt their sting. The hearing was now a high-wire act, each exchange raising the stakes. Booker, sensing the narrative slipping, shifted tactics. "Let's talk about your tenure," he said, his tone colder. "In 2018, your office ignored whistleblower reports of ballot tampering. Why?" The question was a trap, designed to force Bondi onto the defensive. But she was ready. "Senator, those reports were investigated thoroughly. The findings? No tampering. But since you mention whistleblowers, I have one who claims your office pressured them to stay silent about election irregularities." The revelation landed like a shockwave. Booker's face paled, his hands gripping the podium. "That's a lie," he hissed, but his voice lacked conviction. Bondi produced a sworn affidavit, holding it up for the cameras. "This whistleblower, a former aide of yours, is willing to testify. Shall we invite them?" The gallery erupted, and the chair struggled to restore order. Social media lit up, with Yashir Bondi Booker trending as clips of the exchange went viral. Booker, cornered, tried to regroup. "You're turning this hearing into a circus," he said, his voice rising. "The American people deserve answers, not theatrics." But Bondi was relentless. "They deserve the truth, Senator, like the truth about your meetings with lobbyists pushing voter roll purges. I have the calendars to prove it." She tapped another folder, its contents a mystery but its threat undeniable. The room was electric, every word a potential career ender. As the confrontation escalated, the political divide deepened. Bondi's supporters saw her as a fearless crusader. Booker's allies accused her of weaponizing half-truths. But in the Yaham chamber, the battle was personal. Booker leaned forward, his voice low and menacing. "You're playing a dangerous game, Ms. Bondi. You won't like the consequences." Bondi met his stare, unflinching. "Threats don't scare me, Senator. Lies do." The tension was palpable, the air thick with unspoken challenges. Bondi's evidence was piling up, each document a brick in a wall closing in on Booker. But he wasn't out yet. As the session neared another break, he scribbled a note to an aide, his expression unreadable. The aide slipped out, and Bondi's eyes followed, a flicker of suspicion crossing her face. Whatever Booker was planning, it was big, and it was coming fast. The Senate chamber simmered with unease as the break ended, the weight of Booker's cryptic note and his aide's swift exit hanging over the room. Pam Bondi sat composed, her eyes scanning the senators, alert to the shift in the air. Cory Booker, now back at his seat, wore a mask of calm, but his clenched fists betrayed his nerves. The hearing had become a battlefield, and Bondi's relentless evidence, bank statements, affidavits, calendars, had pushed Booker to the edge. But his next move was coming, and Bondi braced for impact. Booker stood, his voice measured but sharp. "Ms. Bondi, you've spun a compelling story, but let's refocus. Your aggressive tactics in Florida's 2020 recounts suppressed valid votes. Care to defend that?" The question was a jab, meant to drag the focus back to Bondi's record. The gallery leaned in, sensing blood in the water. Booker's eyes gleamed. He was baiting her, confident in whatever card he held. Bondi didn't blink. "Senator, my tactics ensured every legal vote was counted. But since you're raising recounts, let's discuss your role in New Jersey's 2020 election oversight." She pulled a new document from her stack, its edges crisp with purpose. "This report details irregularities in precincts your office monitored. Over 10,000 ballots flagged, yet your team dismissed them without review. Why?" The accusation hit hard, and gasps rippled through the room. Booker's face tightened, his composure fraying. "That report is unverified," he shot back, but his voice wavered. "You're peddling rumors to dodge accountability." He gestured to an aide, who handed him a sleek tablet. "Let's talk facts. I have evidence of your office coordinating with partisan operatives to challenge mail-in ballots." He tapped the screen, projecting an email chain onto the chamber's monitors. The emails, purportedly from Bondi's staff, were damning, until Bondi spoke. "Senator, those emails are fabricated," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "My team traced their origin to a server linked to your campaign's digital strategist." The room froze. Bondi held up a forensic analysis, its data irrefutable. "You tried to plant evidence, Senator. That's not just unethical, it's illegal." The chamber erupted, senators shouting, reporters typing furiously. Booker's tablet clattered to the desk, his face a mix of shock and rage. The hearing was now a full-blown crisis. Booker, cornered, lashed out. "This is a witch hunt," he roared, his voice echoing. "You're desperate to smear me because your record can't stand scrutiny." But Bondi was relentless. "Desperate, Senator? I'm prepared, like with this recording." She pressed a device, and a muffled voice filled the room. A conversation between Booker and a lobbyist discussing creative voter roll tactics. The gallery gasped, and Booker's eyes widened in panic. The recording was a gut punch, its authenticity undeniable. Booker's allies on the committee tried to intervene, objecting to the evidence's admissibility, but the chair allowed it. Bondi pressed her advantage. "Senator, this isn't about me. It's about a pattern. Your office, your campaign, your allies, all working to undermine trust in our elections." Her words were a scalpel, slicing through Booker's defenses. Social media exploded, with Lashi Booker exposed trending alongside. Clips of the recording. Booker, his back against the wall, tried a final gambit. "You're not untouchable, Ms. Bondi," he said, his voice low and menacing. "I have witnesses who'll testify to your own election meddling. They're on their way." The threat landed, and Bondi's eyes narrowed. Witnesses? The aide's exit suddenly made sense. Booker was orchestrating a counterstrike, but Bondi wasn't fazed. "Bring them, Senator," she said coolly. "I've got more tapes." The room was a pressure cooker, every exchange a potential detonation. Bondi's evidence was a fortress, but Booker's witnesses loomed like a storm cloud. As the session barreled toward another break, an aide slipped Booker a note, and his lips curled into a faint, dangerous smile. Bondi caught the look, her instincts screaming. Whatever was coming, it was designed to break her. And it was closer than she thought. The Senate chamber crackled with suspense as the break ended, Senator Cory Booker's sly smile lingering like a predator's warning. Pam Bondi, unyielding, adjusted her notes, her eyes flicking toward the door where Booker's aide had vanished. His promised witnesses, his last-ditch effort to turn the tide, were imminent, and the air buzzed with the threat of a reversal. Bondi's fortress of evidence, from recordings to forensic reports, had battered Booker's credibility, but his cryptic confidence signaled a trap. The hearing, already a national spectacle, was about to ignite. Booker stood, his voice smooth, but laced with menace. "Ms. Bondi, you've woven a tale of conspiracy, but the truth is simpler. Your actions in Florida disenfranchised thousands. I have witnesses who'll prove it." He gestured to the door, and two figures entered. A former election official, and a community organizer, both with grim expressions. The gallery hushed, sensing a shift. Booker's eyes locked on Bondi. "Let's hear from them." The official took the stand first, claiming Bondi's office pressured local boards to reject valid ballots in 2020. The organizer followed, alleging voter intimidation tactics tied to Bondi's allies. Their testimonies were detailed, emotional, and rehearsed, designed to sway hearts and headlines. Reporters typed furiously, and social media buzzed with "Scratcher Bondi accused." Booker leaned back, his smile widening. "Your move, Ms. Bondi." Bondi's face remained a mask of calm, but her mind raced. The witnesses were a surprise, their stories polished. She rose, her voice steady. "Senator, these accounts are compelling, but they're also conveniently timed. Let's test their credibility." She produced a dossier, its pages thick with data. "This is a cross-referenced log of every election board meeting in Florida during my tenure. No record of coercion exists. Care to explain that discrepancy?" The official faltered, glancing at Booker, who stiffened. Bondi didn't pause. "As for voter intimidation, I have sworn statements from community leaders refuting your organizers' claims. They're ready to testify." She held up a flash drive. "And this? Security footage from polling stations, showing no intimidation, just orderly voting." The chamber erupted in murmurs, and Booker's smile vanished. His witnesses, meant to be his salvation, were crumbling under scrutiny. Booker scrambled. "You're deflecting with paperwork," he snapped. "These are real people, real stories." But Bondi was relentless. "Real stories, Senator? Like the one about your campaign paying these witnesses?" She slid bank records across the table, showing transfers from a Booker-affiliated passee to the witnesses' accounts. The gallery gasped, and the organizer's face drained of color. "This isn't testimony, it's a script," Bondi said, her voice slicing through the chaos. The hearing was a crucible, every revelation a spark. Booker's allies on the committee tried to object, but the chair allowed Bondi's evidence. She pressed further, playing a new recording, a hushed call where an aide coached the official on their story. "You orchestrated this, Senator," Bondi said, her gaze piercing. "You weaponized lies to save yourself." The room was a storm of shouts and camera flashes, with Booker caught trending instantly. Booker's composure shattered. "You're twisting everything," he roared, slamming his fist. "This is a vendetta." But the outburst only deepened his hole. Bondi leaned forward, her voice low but lethal. "A vendetta, Senator? No. This is accountability. And I'm not done." She tapped another folder, its contents hidden but its threat palpable. The chamber held its breath, sensing another bombshell. As the session hurtled toward its final break, Booker's desperation, peaked. He whispered to an aide who rushed out again, and Bondi's instincts flared. He was planning one last strike, something to salvage his reputation or destroy hers. She met his gaze unflinching as he muttered, "You'll regret this." Bondi's lips curved faintly. "Try me, Senator." The gavel fell, but the war was far from over, and Booker's final gambit was poised to strike. The Senate chamber pulsed with raw anticipation as the final session began. The weight of Senator Cory Booker's muttered threat and his aides' hurried exit fueling the tension. Pam Bondi sat resolute, her stack of evidence a silent arsenal, while Booker's eyes burned with a mix of defiance and dread. The hearing had become a crucible of truth and deception, with Bondi's relentless facts, recordings, bank records, affidavits, dismantling Booker's credibility. His promised final strike loomed, and the nation watched, breathless, as the showdown reached its climax. Booker rose, his voice taut but forceful. "Ms. Bondi, you've painted me as a villain, but I have proof you're no saint. Your office buried evidence of election fraud to protect allies." He held up a USB drive, its contents a mystery but its intent clear: to flip the narrative. The gallery buzzed, and cameras zoomed in as he plugged it into the system, projecting a grainy video. It showed a man, allegedly Bondi's deputy, discussing cleaned voter rolls. "Explain this," Booker demanded, his tone triumphant. The room braced for Bondi's fall, but she didn't waver. "Senator, your desperation is showing," she said, her voice steady. "That video is a deep fake, and I can prove it." She produced a forensic report, its analysis detailing digital tampering. "This was created by a firm your campaign hired last month. Here's their invoice." She slid the document forward, and the gallery gasped. Booker's face froze, the USB drive now a liability. "You tried to frame me," Bondi said, "but you forgot one thing. I'm always prepared." Booker's gambit collapsed. He stammered, "This is a lie," but the evidence was ironclad. Bondi pressed her advantage, unveiling her final weapon, a whistleblower's live testimony streamed via secure link. The whistleblower, a former Booker staffer, detailed how Booker's team fabricated evidence to discredit opponents. "He told us to do whatever it took," they said, their voice trembling but clear. The chamber erupted, senators shouting, reporters scrambling. Booker unraveled trended as the testimony went viral. Booker, cornered, lashed out. "You've orchestrated a smear campaign," he roared, his voice cracking. "This is a disgrace." But the room was turning against him. Even his allies looked uneasy, their support waning. Bondi stood, her presence commanding. "Senator, the disgrace is yours. You betrayed the public's trust, and these documents, emails, payments, confessions, prove it." She spread her evidence across the table, a damning mosaic of Booker's missteps. The chair called for order, but the truth was out. The hearing's final moments were electric. Bondi addressed the committee, her voice resonant. "This isn't about politics. It's about integrity. The American people deserve leaders who face facts, not fabricate them." Her words landed like a verdict, and the gallery applauded, a rare breach of protocol. Booker slumped in his seat, his fight drained. He tried one last retort. "You haven't won," but it was hollow, drowned by the room's shift in favor of Bondi. As the gavel fell, the aftermath was swift. Media outlets hailed Bondi's performance as a masterclass in preparation, her evidence dismantling Booker's accusations with surgical precision. Pundits dissected Booker's fall, his political future clouded by calls for investigations. Social media crowned Bondi a hero, her composure under fire a beacon of resolve. Booker's team issued a weak denial, but the damage was done. His reputation lay in tatters. Bondi left the chamber, her head high, pursued by reporters. She offered only a brief statement. "Truth speaks for itself." Behind her, the Senate, buzzed with debates over election integrity, her evidence sparking broader scrutiny. The hearing became a turning point, a lesson in the power of facts over theatrics. For Bondi, it was a triumph, not of vengeance, but of principle, a victory that echoed far beyond the chamber's walls, reshaping the discourse for a nation watching closely.